Good evening and welcome to Film Forum, Atlanta's best movie talk show. I'm your host, Steve Markos, along with me, my co-host, Aron Siegel. Aron, do we have a great show here or what?
We have a great show and what?
Oh, well, that's good to know. Anyway, as usual, we got a lot of fun and exciting things for you tonight, and we'll be reviewing two films as usual, and Aron is going to tell us what we have coming up.
Well, tonight, Steve, we've got Flesh and Bone, and we've also got Fatal Instinct.
All right, sounds like two winners, and directly after that, we'll have our Critics' Choice. This week, we're going to tell you our favorite films which prominently feature set and art decorations. And then we'll have a special guest, and who's coming on, Aron? You're in charge of that.
Tonight, Steve, we have Linda McNaughton-Jones. She is a talent agent and personal manager, and she'll be on later on in the show.
All right, sounds like a winner, so you definitely need to stick around, and we have so much to do as usual. We might as well get started, and we're going to review our first film. What do you want to start with?
Steve, I think I'll start with Flesh and Bone.
All righty, we'll go with that.
Okay, Flesh and Bone begins on the Texas plains 30 years ago as a peaceful night is broken by gunfire. 3 decades later, what happened that night still will not leave Arliss Sweeney alone. Maybe that's why he can't stay in one town for very long. Arliss is content to lead a quiet life, traveling from town to town, stocking candy and condom machines. And maybe that's what makes him jumpy, is Kay Davies, a sweet but vulnerable charmer, comes into his life. Arliss meets Kay by pure accident when she's jumping out of a cake in a cowboy bar, hoping to get bus fare back home. Instead, Arliss takes her home, and Kay discovers that Arliss is on the run, trying to escape the 7 years of bad luck and bruises that he's experienced before. Thrown together by circumstance, Kay and Arliss are fated for each other. But what draws them together the most also pushes them back into the dark past they've been running from. What we have here now is a scene from Flesh and Bone, which stars Dennis Quaid, Meg Ryan, and James Caan. The scene has Dennis Quaid and James Caan talking about their past.
What do you want? If it's money,
Money. Hey, boy. I don't need any money.
Why are you here?
I got shot, and you fixed me up. I'm having some eggs. Does that seem strange?
Just like old times, huh?
Just coincidence. I had a loose end to take care of up north Oklahoma way. Around Ardmore, them parts. An associate of mine got a little greedy. Started threatening. Started to weigh on me. Stole my sleep. And you know how I feel about loose ends.
Being one myself.
That's true, isn't it, Junior?
Okay, that's a scene from Flesh and Bone, which opens this Friday, we hope.
Yeah, hopefully.
Dazed and Confused finally did open this past Friday.
I wonder what's always wrong with it. I think this analogy I came up with this film is describe it as a vacation. Say you're heading out west, and you're going to stop in New Orleans, then out the Grand Canyon in L.A. and San Francisco and Yellowstone. You have all these great points of interest, but in between you're riding on a highway where there's really nothing to see. And I think that's the analogy of this film. It had a great, shocking beginning, a good ending, a few points of interest in between, but a lot of what came in between the good points of interest was just filler, trying to stretch this film out into a 2-hour film.
It was like 2 hours and 10 minutes or something. And I don't see why this film was so long, because there's so many unnecessary scenes, so many things that didn't move the plot forward that I felt the film was dragging most of the time.
Well, I never thought it was boring, but I thought it was rambling. And like I said, the filler scenes could have been eliminated. I'm convinced this could have been done as a half-hour Twilight Zone episode just as effectively, to tell you the truth. There was a lot of good ideas, but not enough to make a full movie out of.
I agree with you, Steve.
The beginning was an upsetting beginning, and the energy of this film opening carried me for an hour of the film. In other words, I was tense, and I was enjoying the film for about an hour, but what happens when that hour came up, I started wondering, like, is this film going anywhere? And
is there any point to this film?
Am I watching scenes that have any relevance to the film? And, of course, we hear from the press release that the man's haunted by his guilty past, and we expect, inevitably, we'll find out about his guilty past, but it really comes a point where you're wondering if maybe we read the wrong press release.
Maybe we read the wrong film, period.
Yeah, because I enjoyed the film, but you definitely have to have a little bizarre streak running through you, a little dark side to you, because The film is not a pleasant film.
It's not an up film at all.
No,
this is not a date film.
No, it's depressing. It kind of gives you a little sick feeling in your stomach. I like films like that. I don't like going to a tearjerker that you don't cry. It's just like I don't go to a movie like this where you don't come out feeling depressed. If you come out feeling depressed, I feel it's effective, and therefore I did like the movie. But yeah, it is rambling.
It reminded me of a film that came out several years ago with Mickey Rourke. It was called Barfly. And it reminded me a lot of that because it just kind of rambled on, and you really weren't like really eager to see this or eager to watch the rest.
I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't want to see it again. There were 6 movies I came up with. This is my list. If you like these movies, these do not have anything to do with the plot, but these movies do give you that sickening feeling. A movie like Straw Dogs or In Cold Blood, Onion Field, Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, Dead Ringers, or even, let me see, what was the other one here, Badlands. And those movies all kind of gave me a sick feeling. If you like those films, you may like this. It's very intellectual, very serious film.
I don't see this being in the theaters very long. I think it's going to go to home video very quick.
I don't know. It's definitely a radical departure for Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan. I'm going to go with 3 stars. Like I said, I enjoyed
I'm going to
it,
give
but
it
it
2
was rambling.
stars.
So we're coming out with 2.5 stars on our 4-star system. That's a little bit above average, and that should be coming out this Friday.
And Steve is being more generous than I am. We want to remind everybody we are a call-in show. If you have some criticism or questions, the number here is 873-6713. And we'll give you our Film Forum feedback line later on.
All righty, let's get on with our second film. It's called, it came out last Friday. It's called Fatal Instinct. Stars Armand Asante, Sean Young, Kate Nelligan, and Sherilyn Fenn. Now, Fatal Instinct is the latest parody film, and this time around it's making fun of movies such as Body Heat, Basic Instinct, and Fatal Attraction. And for the most part, the plot of this film is a conglomeration of those plots of those 3 films. Part-time cop, part-time lawyer Ned Racine finds out that he's the target of a murder conspiracy led by his wife and her lover, and at the same time he has to dodge violent threats from his latest psychotic one-night stand whose favorite weapon just happens to be an ice pick. Let's take a look at a scene here from Fatal Instinct, which opened last Friday.
I just want to talk.
Why didn't you say so? Would you like a drink?
No, thanks. I'm driving.
Then let's get to the point. So, what's your problem, tough guy?
You stay away from my wife, my life, my home, and my skunk. I'm taking a long vacation. And when I come back, I don't want to see your face again.
All right, that's a scene from Fatal Instinct. I'd like to make one observation before you start. If you do not get to see this film in a full theater, do not see it, because when you're sitting there in an empty theater by yourself, it is not funny. This is the kind of film that you need other people to get you laughing, I would assume. And I saw it with about 20 people there, and I'll tell you what, it was dead. And I'm not a big fan of these parody films to begin with. I find them slightly amusing, some of them more funny than the other. But Aaron, I know you like these kind of films. I'm very interested to see what your opinion of this is.
I didn't like it. I really didn't like this film. I think the running gags in this film were just overdone. The film was not funny. It wasn't exciting. There was no original plot in this film. And it wasn't a good parody. I was really disappointed because Carl Reiner has come out with some of the best films around. I mean, he came out with Sibling Rivalry and The Jerk. And so
Well, did you see this in a full theater or empty?
No, I saw it with about 20 people.
Did you? So definitely. I mean, don't catch you at the matinee. Maybe you got to pay $6 to see it to get a full house.
I wouldn't pay $6 to see this one.
I wouldn't. All right. Well, he knows. I think the main problem with this film is two points. One, I think it's got too much of a plot for its own good. A lot of these films don't really have much of a plot, and I don't think you really need to get a plot in this type of a film. Also, this one really relies heavily on the fact that you've seen Body Heat and Fatal
But
Instinct.
you've seen all these films, and it plays havoc on them.
Yeah, and you look back at Airport, or Airplane, I don't think you really need to see airport films to get the jokes. Whereas in this one, you're going to be lost if you haven't seen particularly Body Heat and a little bit of Basic Instinct and those type of films. I think tries to do a little bit too much for its own good.
I agree.
I'm going to go with just 1 star. I say
Me
stay
too.
away. And if you're going to want to see it at all, I'd say ask the ticket taker, hey, have you sold many tickets? And if he says no, then I'd go see something else.
Good
So,
idea.
We kind of don't like this one that much.
Okay.
All right, let's get on with the Atlanta's Top 10.
Okay, we're going to take a look at the Atlanta Top 10. These are films that you went to see this past weekend, so don't blame us for your ratings. At number 10 is Gettysburg. It remains at number 10 for the 2nd week in a row. At number 9 is Judgment Night. Drops from number 8. This film stars Emilio Estevez and Dennis Leary. It's a film about several different guys night out, and they're going to see the fights. Okay? Number 8 is The Good Son, the Macaulay Culkin ripoff of The Bad Seed. 6th week in the top 10.
Now, The Good Son and Gettysburg are not in the national top 10. They're replaced still by Age of Innocence and Joy Luck Club, which are not in the Atlanta top 10.
So everyone has different tastes. Number 7 this week is Malice. Nicole Kidman, Alec Baldwin. Drops from number 4. It's a great thriller. We gave it a great review. Number 6 is Rudy, the story of a Notre Dame walk-on. It's based on a true story. Falls from number 5.
I saw that this weekend. I thought that was a great film. It reminded me. It was made by the creators of Hoosiers, and if you like Hoosiers, you'll love this.
Number 5 is Cool Runnings, inspired by the true story of the Olympic Jamaican bobsled team. 5th week in the top 5. And number 4 this week is Fatal Instinct, a film we just reviewed. It debuts at number 4, and I don't think we're going to see it in the top 10 next week.
Well, all those people that went to see it must have gone at another time than we did, right?
Obviously. Number 3 is Demolition Man. It drops 1 place to number 3, 4th week in the top 3. That's Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone in this futuristic parody of bureaucracy and such. Number 2 is Nightmare Before Christmas. Moves all the way up from number 6 to number 2.
And that's number 1 nationally.
And it's a stop-motion animation film by Tim Burton with musical numbers and musical score by Danny Elfman of Oingo Boingo and also of Batman fame. Number 1 for the 3rd week in a row is the Beverly Hillbillies. Great characterizations, but the plot kind of lacks.
All righty, and that's the Atlanta's Top 10, and we might as well get on with our Critics' Choice. Like I said, this week is our favorite films in which art and set direction had a heavy role in. What are your favorite 3? Huh?
My favorite 3 art and set decoration films. Number 3 is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It was directed by Mel Stewart, came out in 1971. It stars Gene Wilder and Jack Albertson. It's a story of a candy maker who gives kids, a select group of kids, 5 kids, a tour of his chocolate factory and the misadventures that happen in it. Very colorful sets. The Oompa Loompas are made up very well. All the sets, different colors and different world of imagination is the way to sum it up. Number 2 film came out in 1985, directed by Terry Gilliam. It's called Brazil. Terry Gilliam also brought us The Fisher King. This stars Jonathan Pryce and Katherine Hellman. It's a colorful look at a twisted, bureaucratic, futuristic society. And it has a lot of different set decorations, a lot of different pipes and hoses and all sorts of interesting things, a very twisted look on society in the future. My number 1 film came out in 1992, directed by Barry Levinson. Did not win the Oscar for art direction, but deserved it. It was directed by Barry Levinson, came out, it was called Toys. Starred Robin Williams and Robin Wright. It's a story of a toy factory inherited by the wrong brother who aims to manufacture war toys as opposed to harmless kids' toys. Those are my top 3.
All righty, my favorite 3, and again, these are my favorite films in which art direction played prominently. I love Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, too. Came out in 1971. Willy Wonka is a fantasy for both adults and children because you don't have to be a kid to want to dream about chocolate and stuff like that. The film is split into 2 parts. The first part is a hunt for the golden tickets, which will get you into the factory, whereas the second half takes us into the factory. And though the film is entertaining from beginning to end, I love the second part because we get to see into Willy Wonka's fantastic chocolate factory. Now, I'm sure that the people who made this film had to have been on drugs when they dreamed up these sets, right? We got chocolate rivers, we got huge candy mushrooms, we got rooms that shrink in size as we walk across the room, barrage of colors and sounds. The chocolate factory is a place where all your dreams can come true. And even though I don't really know if the films were a product of artificial enhancement or if they really came from a child's dreams, but the sets do make Willy Wonka the fantasy that it is. Unbelievable as it may seem, this film did not receive an Oscar nomination for set and art direction. Its only nomination came for Best Adaptation and Original Sound Score, of which it lost to Fiddler on the Roof. I don't see how it lost out to that. My second favorite film in which art direction played prominently is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, came out in 1974. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a low-budget masterpiece. Now, it may be technically crude at sometimes, but there's no way to deny the fact this movie scares the hell out of you and leaves you with a twisted mind and a sick feeling in your stomach. Now, low-budget films cannot rely on high-tech special effects and big actors and actresses to pull them through. They have to rely on atmosphere because atmosphere doesn't cost a thing, but it's very effective in creating a mood which is essential to a film's success. Now, when a group of teenagers stumble into an old farmhouse in which a family of cannibals lives, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre becomes a set design tour de force. We got bones, animal parts, skeletons laying around. They're all arranged in some satanic arrangements. It's very, very effective, and these bizarre sights alone are enough to turn people's stomachs. Now, these sets are not as high profile and fantastic as Willy Wonka or Toys or any of the other films we mentioned tonight, but I do believe Texas Chainsaw Massacre utilizes set design better than any other film that I've ever seen. The entire mood of this film is set by the eerie set pieces, and I highly recommend it. And my favorite of all time came out in 1939, The Wizard of Oz. Maybe you've heard of it. Dorothy and her dog head on out to the Wizard of out to Oz there. If you haven't, you need to check it out. Ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to walk down the yellow brick road. I wanted to see monkeys fly around the enchanted forest and run through poppy fields, and I want to see the Emerald City. This is the best fantasy film ever made, and the fantasy element comes here because of this creativity and imagination that went into producing some of the best sets that have ever been seen in film. I love this film because it's created a magical world in which the set directors have used their props and their decorations. And there's a lot of films I've seen as kids that now seem corny to me now. This film has lost none of the magic. It's the epitome of the saying, a film for all time. Believe it or not, as popular as this film is, it lost $1 million back in 1939 for MGM Studios. It took 20 years for it to recoup its $2.8 million investment, and really didn't do so until it became a every year occurrence on television. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Color Cinematography. They had a black and white category back then. Best Interior Decoration, which is now set/art direction. Best Special Effects. It did win 2 Oscars for Best Original Song, Over the Rainbow, which Louis B. Mayer almost cut from this film, and Best Original Musical Score. And Judy Garland also won what they call a miniature Oscar for the Best Performance by a Juvenile Actor of the Year. And those are my favorite 3.
I didn't know that about The Wizard of Oz.
There's all kinds of things
almost
about
cut Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
They almost cut it. Louis B. Mayer, one of the few decisions that he did not follow through.
Because I know there were musical numbers that they did cut.
Yeah, and there's a restored version of this film where some of them are in there. They put back some of the cut versions of it, the 50-year anniversary. So anyway, hey, you learn something new on the Film Forum every day. Let's get on with the video releases up here. This week, we only have one. Who's the Man?
And that's a combination of several different rap stars.
So that's not a golf film, then. Go to Man! Right? Bad joke, right? Anyway, on pay-per-view this week, we have Untamed Heart, which we gave 3 stars, a great film with Christian Slater and Marissa Tomei. Indian Summer, which we have not yet rated. Jack the Bear, which we gave 3 stars as well, a great Danny DeVito film. This is not a family movie, by the way. This is a very dark, type of a sinister type little film. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, which we have not rated it either. We'll have to catch that one sometime.
Okay, each week on Film Forum we have a special guest. This week is no different. We have Linda McNaughton-Jones. She is a talent agent and personal manager. What we'd like to do now is welcome Linda to the show. Linda?
How you doing, Linda?
Hi, great.
So
nice
talent
to be
manager.
Here. That's right.
What do you do? I'm sure all the people out watching our show right now are like, hey, I'm going to call up this lady. She can make me a movie star, right? Is that what you can do?
That's true. That's usually what I do. I have been in this business for over 25 years. And what I generally do is look for people who are exceptionally talented and help develop their career. Send them on to bigger markets from Atlanta to New York, LA. We're working in Europe. We've got people in Japan, Hong Kong. The market is ever expanding. And a lot of people don't know how to do this. Especially in Atlanta, it's very hard to find which way that you're going in this business. Oftentimes, people will give you completely the wrong information or try to sell you portfolio packages or acting classes. None of that's going to help you get further on in the market. All too often, the business is very confusing, and there's a lot of competition, so it's really difficult to get ahead.
So what you're saying is that if somebody wants to get involved in films and such, that they should consult you as a talent agent or consult a talent agency.
Right, and it's best that they consult an agency, and a legitimate agency, as opposed to a modeling or acting school.
How do you tell the difference?
The union, Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of Television, Radio, and Artists have a list of all union franchise agents. There are also some agencies who are not union franchised, because you must remember, this is a right-to-work state, so you do not have to have a union franchise. But you can also check with your Better Business Bureau. If you happen to know people who are in the business that they are fairly successful, ask them for referrals. They can, help set up appointments so that you can get your foot in the door.
Now, did you start off as an actor, or I should say an actress?
Actually,
When
I
you
originally started working in New York in an ad agency, booking talent. I worked for a while doing children and character voices, and I also did hand modeling. I moved back to Atlanta, and I worked for the Screen Actors Guild for a couple of years. And during that time, there were only about 3 agencies here in Atlanta, and I decided to start my own agency, which I had for about 15 years.
And what was that?
It was the Talent Shop.
The Talent Shop.
We got John Schneider, his part on Dukes of Hazzard. Marla Maples was one of our girls. Jan Hooks, who's now on Designing Women, one of our girls. Travis Fine, who's on The Young Riders, was one of our kids. He's great. Sherry Shattuck, that you would recognize her if you saw her on film. She's becoming a major star now in Hollywood. She came from Atlanta. Let's see, and a lot of older actors. Ben Jones, of course. A lot of people have come out of Atlanta.
Now, you had said you were trying to get people into bigger markets, New York and L.A.
Right.
But we always hear like all these movie studios are now coming to Atlanta. It's kind of like a little contradiction. So.
They do come here, but you have to remember, by the time that they come to Atlanta, most of the major parts are already set. I fortunately have one guy who did a 13-week part on the program. That's very unusual for Atlanta players to get that much airtime. That's it, exactly. So what I do is find people, put them in contact with casting people in New York and LA, try to find them personal managers to take them one step further so that they can go on to bigger markets, so that they're eligible for co-starring parts and they can move up. They will never cast a co-starring part out of Atlanta, period. No way, no how.
And how definite is that? Is that
It's
permanent?
pretty much in stone, forever.
Forever.
So what happens when you get
That's
these
right.
people big enough? Then they obviously leave you, and you're
My
out of
goal,
luck,
my goal is to have them leave Atlanta and go to bigger markets.
even though they're not going to take you along. And
Well, I'm a real nurturer, so I push them out of the nest and keep them going.
so it doesn't matter to you if they go on to be bigger and better and get
well-
on with another agency.
Well, see, I really help them guide their career. Even though they leave this market, we still maintain very close contact so that I help them pick a personal manager. And 3 girls who, Mike Fenton, who's a major casting director. He did Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., Honeymoon in Vegas. He's working on Jack Flash right now. He came to Atlanta about 2.5 months ago. We had about 15 people in a seminar. He picked 3 of whom that he thought really had a great deal of potential. They are now all 3 in New York going on auditions. They have personal managers, agents for print, commercials, movies. This is our growth process.
Okay, so what are the pitfalls? What are some things that people should look for, should look as warning signs for when they're trying to get a talent agent? You mentioned calling the Better Business Bureau.
Right.
But what are some of the things that they'll know when they talk to these people?
Well, I think the most important thing is that if you go into an agency and right away they tell you that none of the pictures that you have already will work, and that they can sell you pictures for $700 or $1,400, and then you have to take acting classes that are another $2,000 or $3,000. Things like this are a definite giveaway that these people are out to make money from you, not for you. Legitimate agencies operate on commission, 10% on broadcast and 15% on print. And that's standard throughout the country and has been for 25 years. It's not going to change. Now, don't get me wrong. When you go into agencies, sometimes they will charge you an initial fee to interview you as a consultation fee, and that's pretty legit because their time is very valuable.
But if you came in and someone's got no talent, has no talent to be, I guess, grammatically correct, do you tell them you don't want them, or do you try to?
No, I tell them sorry.
Now, what about other people? They'll suck them along for all they can get out of them? Or something?
Well, the other people are basically out to sell them $1,500 worth of pictures and acting classes. So as long as you can sign a promissory note, they will take you in a class. You know, and not to say that some of these people do not actually wind up working on movie sets. They may work as extras. They may work in bit parts. But I really feel that the quality of pictures and the quality of classes they get leave a great deal to be desired.
So what is best for classes? Just maybe going to actual colleges and stuff like that?
There are several local schools here that have great classes. Kennesaw has a terrific drama department. Georgia State has a great drama department. And of course, you know, most kids are already signed up to go to school anyway. And if you're going to help keep your parents happy, taking a few drama classes at the same time are an easy way to slide into it. And it's financially less painful.
And you can get into those classes without actually enrolling as taking
yes.
English and math and all that kind
Yeah,
of
you
stuff?
sure can.
All right.
You don't have to take core classes to take those.
Okay. Linda, we're about out of time now. We want to thank you for being on the show tonight.
Great.
So be with us next week on Film Forum, when we'll have 2 feature releases. Our Critics' Choice will be computer-inspired films, and our special guest will be somebody involved in the theater, the movie theater industry. That's next week on Film Forum, 7:30. By the way, our Film Forum hotline is 798-6981. If you want to call that, it's our feedback line. If you have your own comments and criticisms of the show, please call that, 798-6981. See you next Tuesday.